The neon haze of Station Argus 4 flickered like an old memory as Dallin Ward, freelance mechanic and borderline hermit, slid open the doors to his cluttered workshop. The metallic tang of coolant hung in the air. The day had barely begun, but he already anticipated a string of broken exosuits, hoverbike malfunctions, and illegal Android tune-ups from the station's shadier clientele. Business was slow, but that was how Dallin liked it. Ever since the Syndicate War, he preferred machines to people. Machines were honest, they broke, but they didn't betray. He was halfway through repairing a thruster coil when the bell above the door chimed. Dallin expected the usual: a scruffy miner, a reckless racer, or a drunk from the lower decks. Instead, he looked up and nearly dropped the coil. A woman stood in the entrance, tall, poised, her posture too precise to be ordinary. She wore what looked like high-grade armor disguised beneath a cloak of shimmering indigo fabric. Dust motes drifted around her like she disturbed the very air she walked through. "Are you the mechanic called Dallin Ward?" she asked. Her voice was smooth, cultured. Not the voice of a miner. Not the voice of a fugitive. Something higher. "That depends," Dallin replied cautiously. "If you're here to find me, rob me, or enlist me, then no. If your problem is mechanical, then yes." Her lips curved slightly. "Mechanical." She stepped forward and extended her arm. A gauntlet, no, more like a high-intelligence servo brace, was attached from wrist to elbow. It was scorched, wires exposed, its faint blue luminescence flickering. "I need this repaired," she said. "One of the advanced models." Dallin murmured, taking her arm gently. "This isn't civilian tech." "It's not," she agreed. The servo brace was leagues beyond common exosuits. The alloy, a pale gold, was unusual, and the inscriptions running along the paneling looked ceremonial, almost regal. "Where did you get this?" he asked, turning it carefully. "A gift," she answered. Non-answer. Dallin had seen that look before. The look of someone hiding from something big. But he had a rule: don't ask questions that could get you spaced. "Fine," he said, pulling over a tool tray. "This'll take a bit. Sit." She did, her gaze scanning his workshop with silent calculation. Dallin detected no fear, no impatience, just an unreadable calm. As he worked, he felt her eyes on him. "You're skilled," she said after several minutes. "I've been fixing machines since before I could walk," he replied. "Humans, not so much." "Machines are easier," she said, echoing his thoughts. He glanced at her. "You speak like someone who knows." Briefly, her cloak slipped from her shoulder. Beneath it, Dallin glimpsed layers of armor, gold and sapphire plates interlocked like living metal. It shimmered with faint energy. That wasn't armor meant for soldiers. It was armor meant for rulers. But before he could ask anything, she pulled the cloak back into place. "You saw nothing," she said softly. "Wasn't looking," he lied. She smiled. "You're honest." "Honest enough," he muttered. "Hold still. This part can get sparky." When his wrench touched the servo brace, a sharp pulse of energy ran through it. Dallin jerked back. "What in void?" he said, staring at his tool, which now glowed faintly. "Do not be alarmed," she said calmly. "It reacts to biological signatures. You could have warned me. You would have pulled back anyway." "Fair." He resumed working, albeit slower. "So," he said after a while, "seriously, what's a person with armor like this doing on the lower decks of a rundown station?" She hesitated. "Escaping." "From what?" "Not what," she said. "Who?" He didn't push further, but the air shifted, heavy with something unspoken. After nearly an hour, Dallin sealed the final plate and stepped back. It's done, he said. Try it. She raised her arm. The gauntlet hummed, then glowed with brilliant blue light. A holographic crest appeared, an insignia that made Dallin's blood run cold. He knew that symbol. Every spacer did. Your, Dallin whispered. A royal sigil. A forbidden one. One belonging to the vanished monarchy of the Aurelian Empire, thought to have been wiped out 10 years earlier during the Syndicate coup. You're Aurelian. The woman exhaled softly. I had hoped not to reveal that. That crest, there's only one person who wears that design. Her eyes met his. I am Queen Seraphine of Aurelia, she said. The last surviving heir. Dallin staggered backwards. Void take me. I fled during the coup, she explained. I've been in hiding. But they found my trail. I needed the servo brace functional in case I need to defend myself again. Dallin swallowed. Your Majesty. I touched your armor. You repaired it, she corrected. You saved my life, potentially. Do not kneel. He wasn't planning to kneel, shock had rooted his legs. Why come here, he managed. Because you are unknown, she said. Unaffiliated. And trusted by no one, except your machines. He paused. Such people are often the most reliable. Feels like a criticism. A compliment, actually. Before he could respond, the door chime rang again. This time, the intruders weren't customers. 3 armored soldiers stepped inside. Syndicate elite, faces masked. Dallin's heart stopped. Move aside, mechanic, the lead soldier ordered. We're looking for a fugitive. Seraphine stood behind him, hidden by the shadows of his workshop. She touched her restored gauntlet, preparing for a fight. But Dallin acted first. She left, he said steadily. Some fancy noblewoman with broken gear. Came in, complained about my prices, then stormed out. Headed toward Dock Row. The soldiers exchanged glances. Dock Row. Yeah. Probably already bribed her way onto a shuttle. The lead soldier shoved him aside and stormed out with the others. When the door shut, Seraphine released a breath. You risked your life, she said. Story of my existence, Dallin muttered. She stepped close, her gaze softening. Why help me? Because every machine deserves repair, he said. Even the human ones. Her expression wavered, just slightly. I cannot stay, she said. But I will not forget what you've done. He nodded, unsure what to say. She pressed something into his hand. A tiny crystalline shard pulsing with faint light. If Aurelia rises again, she said, show this. You will have a place in my court, should you want one. I'm not exactly court material. You're more than you think. She turned toward the door. Where will you go? He asked. To take back what was stolen. And with a final glance, half gratitude, half promise, she vanished into the neon shadows of the station. Dallin stood in silence. His workshop felt different now. Larger. Emptier. Full of possibility. He looked down at the glowing shard and sighed. Great, he murmured. Now I'm involved in a royal uprising. He returned to his bench, picked up his tools and got back to work, unaware that his life, like the machines he fixed, was about to be completely rebuilt.